Women's Six Nations, the third round of games. I think pretty much expected wins, but not necessarily in the manner they all went down. We'll go through some key events, some stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts. I watched all three of these games last night over here. I did watch them in the order they were played, and I hadn't been spoiled to the results, which was pleasing. But like I mentioned, I picked certainly all three of the winners, but not necessarily the way they played out. The first one, England and Wales, for goodness sake, nobody showed this one to the likes of, I think it was Justin Marshall and John Kerwin here in New Zealand, talking about how they hate maul tries now, because there was a lot of maul tries in this game. The English pack, absolutely just too dominant. They're just so good at the moment that it doesn't look like anyone's going to get near them. They're just streets ahead of everyone else. Wales were unbeaten going into this one. It was always going to be a tough job to go to England and play, but 58-5. That's a big L hiding. Interestingly, England were going for the jugular early by not opting for threes. Wales' defence managed to hold. Abby Dow, goodness me, she's broken her leg. Her screams were pretty blood-curdling. That's never nice when you hear that kind of thing from any player. So, I think she's got to have surgery, so fingers crossed she makes a speedy recovery, but I would imagine the World Cup is probably gone for her. I don't know what the prognosis is in terms of the recovery, but broken leg will certainly take a long time. So, that was pretty horrible. As I said, wish her the best, but England scored not long later. It was from a maul. It was a long stoppage that the teams had to kind of, keep doing warm-up exercises because, it was a really long stoppage while they did all the medical stuff to get Abby Dow off the pitch. So 5-0. And the next one, it was interesting from England because they didn't just always set the drive. Sometimes they would look like they were going to set the drive and then they would pull out some kind of move. So the second try was like that for Ward only a few minutes later. It looked like they were going to go for the maul, but then they got it out the back. So 12-0. Wales were doing bonkers stuff like cross-kicking it in their own 22. I love the ambition, I love the confidence, but they weren't on the board. And England got another maul, which went close and then out to the space out on the right wing. For the third one, that was for Jess Breach out on that right wing. She gets one. I think she sets up a couple of others. So 19-0 at half-time is not too bad. Like, England aren't going to get to 40 points at that rate, which in itself would seem kind of a minor victory, although in the second half, clearly, they outscore their scoring rate that we saw in the first half. It's another more one to start the second half, and the England forwards were just really good at times at just narrowing the Welsh defence. Like, the Welsh had to commit more bodies to stop that English forward pack, which just would leave space out wide. So, they were really good at exploiting that. We go from 24-0, then we're out to, 36-0 when the big prop went over. Wales did get a yellow card. They'd been warned again for just like infringing a maul time. Wales did actually manage to exit after that one, but then the best try of the game, I think, is the one through Matthews, because that one is proper. Like, the back line, there's offloads. I mean, Matthews beats like 3 or 4 defenders to go over the line. That one is proper thing of beauty stuff. You're 41-0 up at that point. Wales do get one in reply through Jones. It's a maul try. So at least they go over, get themselves on the board. But England essentially hit right back. Scarrett got one on the left wing on 74. So a soft one at the finish as well to make it 58 through Hunter. Yeah, man. They're just obliterating everyone they come into contact with, eh? You'll excuse me if I'm interested more in watching these games just because I know these guys are going to destroy anyone they play, seemingly at the moment. I would love to see someone give these guys a run. I was kind of pleased for Wales at halftime that it was like 19-0. That's the state of affairs right now. That's not to throw any shade at the English. They're a top team, and other teams just need to get better. I get that. I've been sitting down here in Super Rugby for years, watching the Super Rugby crown go to the Crusaders year after year. So I know what it's like to watch a dominant team, but man, these games aren't even close. Hopefully, other teams can start to catch up because England are absolutely setting the benchmark right now. Although I think Wales, despite that result, are making some progress in their women's team. So that's pleasing to see. Not that you would know it to look at that result, but you know what I mean. Possession 63-37, territory 62-38, 12 mauls to 6. Wales missed 20 tackles, England missed 13. Scarrett 167 run meters, 3 broken tackles, a try assist. Yeah, it's top stuff from the Welsh, not the Welsh, the English. The Welsh were always going to be up against it. Wales are home to Italy, no, to France next, and England are going to play Ireland at home. But it's in a couple of weeks. I think we've got a week off after this one. Second game, Scotland and France. The first half probably goes according to the script, but not so much the second half. Like, France get the bonus points secured before half-time and then fail to score a single point in that second half. So, credit to Scotland. I mean, it's a couple of classic French players in Saint-Suisse and Tremoulier who keep the French just dominating. Saint-Suisse gets an early try, pretty much a bit of individual brilliance with the chip and chase. Scotland had some pressure on. They kick a penalty to at least get on the board to make it 7-3 after 15. But then Tremoulier with the dummy, she's kicking 50-22s for fun. She gets like, was it 2 or 3 in the first half? Yeah, she is class. Saint-Suisse's second one is kind of a Scottish error. Like, they've done hard work to hold out the French attack. They just need to exit, but the box kick gets charged down, and Saint-Suisse is the one to punish it. So that's the third try. The last one comes to Hermé from the 50-22 that Tremoulier kicked as well. So, yeah, it's 21-3 at half-time. The final try is like second phase after a maul, so not the maul itself that went over. But, yeah, 28-3 half-time. Second half is proper tit for tat. Second half, despite not much scoring, it's probably one of my favourite halves of this tournament thus far for the Women's Six Nations. It was just back and forth. France had a yellow card under pressure. Scotland got held up. They did manage to get one through the fullback Rolly on 68 minutes when they went wide after a bunch of phases. So 28-8. France get held up before full time, but can't score a point. So yeah, it was, as I mentioned, maybe not what the predictions were supposed to be, but it's still a bonus point win for France. Just nobody would have picked them to be scoreless in that second half. Bonus point in the first half, you can definitely understand, but credit to the Scots for absolutely staying in the fight. Scotland end up with more possession, more territory. They've got 4 minutes in the French 22. France have less than 2 minutes in the Scots 22, which, I mean, that's a good thing that the Scots were able to get some ball and apply the pressure. They just couldn't get that clinical edge to get over the line. Whereas the French will be disappointed not to have a bit more ball, but when they did get down the Scottish end, they were able to put the points on, especially in that first half. Handling errors, 10 to France, 15. Scotland, turnovers, France have more, 9-4. Penalties conceded, though, 16-7, with Scotland having a better record in that regard. So, yeah, interesting game. Chloe Rowley, the fullback, 122 run meters, 5 broken tackles. Not bad for Scotland. And another Chloe Jacquet, the 12, 19 from 20 tackles is a pretty good shift, given it was essentially the defence that held on. So, yeah, France are away to Wales in a couple of weeks. Scotland are away to Italy, which could actually be a pretty good game. Speaking of Italy, the last one, Ireland and Italy. I thought Ireland would get this one done pretty comfortably, and it actually ended up being the case. It's a bonus point win for Ireland. It's their first win of the campaign thus far, although Italy actually got on the board first with the penalty, but when Ireland had a chance to do the same thing, they weren't going for threes. Ireland, like England, were going for the jugular, and it paid off because the forwards went close, they got advantage, and the backs got it wide through Mulhall on about 20 minutes. So good reward for backing yourself, in that attacking range. Ireland did have a try chalked off by the TMO, which was a weird one because I don't think she was tackled. It was Amelie Murphy-Crowe from memory. She's busting towards the line, gets kind of taken, falls to the ground, but is certainly not held. She gets back up and puts the ball down. The TMO clearly thinks the tackle's not completed. Absolutely. He asked the question to the ref, do you think the tackle was completed? And she's just like, yes. And he's like, okay. Like, literally, the tone in his voice was just like, okay, whatever. I mean, I'm a fan of the ref having the final say, but yeah, that was interesting one. But the ref just kind of acquiesced. Italy did end up with getting a yellow card under pressure, and the next one was a maul, which went over. So 10 points to 3 at half time. Start of the second half, Ireland, they keep up where they kind of left off. Higgins gets one on 42 minutes. There was a chip over the top, and she gathered it, so 17 points to 3. And then Ireland on like 51 minutes, I don't think I've written on the board, huge scrum leads to a penalty try. So, yeah, that's the bonus point for them. 24-3 up. It's looking pretty good. But they do get yellow carded on 68 minutes for a lifting tackle. So, yeah, Italy punished them with a maul, of all things, to make it 24-8. Loose ball at the end allows Ireland to score their fifth try through O'Dwyer. So, in the end, it's a pretty comfortable one for the Irish, to be fair. Stats-wise, Ireland, all the possession, all the territory. Italy have a grand total of 23 seconds in the Irish 22, according to the Six Nations stats. Doesn't seem like a lot. 5 minutes and 14 for Ireland at the opposite end in comparison. So whether I believe that, I'm not sure, but either way, that's what it says. Ireland's back three of Mulhall, Parsons and Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe, 80-plus run meters each, so they were having a fair bit of fun. The hooker, Betoni, along with being the try scorer, has 23 out of 25 tackles, which is not a bad shift. Italy home to Scotland and Ireland away to England, like I mentioned. So, yeah, it still seems like England are absolutely going to fly to another Six Nations title. We'll obviously wait to see what France has to say about that. But judging on performances thus far, it's all England. Pleasing result from Ireland. Pleasing result for Scotland. Despite the result, that second half is certainly one they can be proud of. And Wales, man, what are you going to do away to England? That's just what's happening to everybody right now. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the games this weekend, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.